Within the rep, we're back. Episode number, I don't even know now. We're gonna lose count. We got my main man here, Kyle Baxter. Met him last year at Total Fitness. I've been watching him. I've been watching him in on from the sidelines though for many years. I'm sure lots of you have heard of him, especially if you follow UK bodybuilding. That's where I first saw this man's face. I believe training with Kuba and seen him in the back end of some of Kuba's videos, helping the man with his training and whatnot. So, absolute pleasure to have him on today, calling all the way from the other side of the world. So, my man,
Pleasure to be here. I still remember our first interaction. It was like super funny. Like I was just sitting between a set and you're like, "Hey
yeah,
man, are you famous?" And I was like, "Oh, what? What do you mean?" He's like, "You do YouTube and stuff." And I was like, not myself, but like I guess I'm on the internet a little bit."
yeah,
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be back in Canada in wait for it. Countdown is here. 264 days until Total Fitness is probably my home gym.
really.
Yeah, we're moving back for good.
Yeah, I remember chatting last year, and you were kind of saying that you were living here now, and then what happened? You
Well,
weren't
we,
getting
we always lived.
right? You went and got married recently, right?
Yeah, so I'll give you like my rundown. You usually do like the like who are you thing.
Ran it out.
Yeah, so real quick, grew up in Vancouver. Basically, have done everything in the fitness industry. Started strength and conditioning, and then taught at a college, and then went to your classic commercial gym. And I always wanted to be a physio, and then I started working with like some high level physios, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like I worked with like the Vancouver Giants and like stuff like that. I'm like, oh, like this is you don't really do much. Like it's kind of boring. Like you just like rub like it's very, very manual therapy based in like North America. So it's like, oh, like you just this is kind of boring. I don't want to work in a clinic. I don't want to do this. And then my buddy who I worked with was like, hey, I'm applying for physio in the UK. Like you should apply. And I was like, oh, like whatever. Like I'd applied to UBC and like they want you to apply multiple times to get in. So I was like, okay, I'll just apply overseas and see what happens. And then COVID, I got into a bunch of schools. I like paid through this service that like they basically do everything for you. And like my resume was pretty good teaching at a college. So I got into a bunch of schools and I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to be a physio. And then COVID happened. And I'm like, well, I guess I need to do something. So I proposed to my now wife and moved across the world. And we did long distance for 9 months. And then she was like, I hate school. I want to be with you. So I'm like, oh, right, move here and we'll figure it out. And she worked at Costa, which is basically the UK equivalent to Starbucks.
Mhm.
And we had no money, and I worked in a hospital for free during school, and then I was educating for Prescript and started doing the online thing, and then just didn't really stop. I have this like weird half physio, half coaching, half bodybuilding niche that a lot of people don't do. So, and then when we left London, we were like, okay, like we live in Vancouver. It's the most expensive place on the earth. We work online. Why don't we travel? So I literally I opened Google Maps and I typed in like the date and then you can see like all the flights.
Mhm.
And I just like looked at all the little lines and I was like, okay, where does this one go? And it was like Bangkok, Thailand. I like Google bodybuilding gyms in Bangkok. And
Mhm.
then that's how we ended up in Asia and met some people, started doing some education here, traveling around, and we didn't really leave.
Hmm.
We lived in Asia for 3 years. And then we were just back when we met. I was back for our wedding
Mhm.
after 7 years of engagement. And then we came back and we're like, okay, cool. Like we should probably, if we're going to have kids. I don't want to have kids in Asia just because like, I know not that I would have kids here, just like family obviously is back home. So it's good time soon, hopefully. And then we moved back home. And
Yeah, congratulations on getting married, by the way.
that's where we're at now. Yeah. It was a lot more smooth than I saw it. We obviously like our friends are kind of like all around the world. So we invited like 55 or 55 people, and our wedding was like 35 or 40 people. It's like a lot of people can't fly to Vancouver. It's the most expensive place for like one day. Shout
Mhm.
out to James and Jordan Shallop if you guys are listening. They flew in for like a weekend from Hong Kong, and Jordan Shallop flew in from Toronto the morning of, and then flew out like halfway through dinner. So some good, some good friend things there. But yeah, it was smooth. It was good. And then now we little bit of travel for some seminars, and then come back home and set up camp somewhere in the Lower Mainland.
Nice. Yeah, those are good friends. Those are good friends traveling all that way for a wedding. Those are
Yeah,
keepers for sure.
yeah, yeah. Big bosses for sure who can just fly for one day.
So you're in Bangkok now then?
Yeah, central Bangkok, right in the middle. It's
Yeah.
I really don't leave my bubble. It's like I have a nice place. There's the gym. My buddy's gym is right beside our. It's like I walk across the street.
Hmm.
And the other gym is like a minute down the road. And then we order everything on Grab, which is like Uber, and
Hmm.
we walk to the mall, which is like we get out of the pollution and we can walk around, and that's pretty much all we do. Just sit on this
Yeah,
computer.
I've always wanted to come there. I know one of the young bodybuilding gentlemen from Total Fitness is headed out tomorrow.
Yeah, he DM'd me. I don't remember his
Yeah.
name. I don't remember his name. Well, I should.
David.
David, right?
David
Yeah,
Kiyoshi.
yeah. So I'll probably hook up
David
with
is
him
skinny.
while he's here.
Amazing. Yeah. Is the bodybuilding and fitness scene large there?
It's like the actual people who live here aren't like a ton, but it's just such a destination, like such a tourist destination that like I don't feel like I don't have friends because there's people coming in like all the time to like, oh, like coming to Bangkok, like, oh, my client from Oz coming to Bangkok, like 'cause it's so cheap to be here. And then there's like our little gym community is like pretty cool. Like Callum Juan Moger lives like the house over from me, and then like Florian Poisson and like the big French crew is here. And like my other buddy from Oz is one of my training partners is like over here. So like it's pretty. Like, I see Vigor Steve all the time around Bangkok, so it's a pretty good place for the bodybuilding community. So
Yeah, there must be a lot of like online personalities living there,
yeah,
being that
it's
it's so cheap to live and, such a beautiful place when
yeah. Besides the pollution, it's pretty good. Like I found the people who live here are more like actual like they're not in like the figuring out myself kind of stage of doing life. Like we lived in
Mhm.
Bali for 2 months, 3 months, and it was a lot of like not real people. It's like, oh yeah, like I'm an online coach. It's like, okay, like cool. Like, how's your business look? And they're just like kind of living the Bali lifestyle. Like they think online coaching's like not a real job. And I'm like, now here, like a lot of my friends, like every single person who I hang out with, like does way better than me financially, like some crazy, like doing some crazy stuff. And like it's a lot more motivating than like in Bali where everyone just wants to chill all the time. So it's like a lot of expats, but like expats who are actually grinding, not just like expats who are on a holiday. So
Yeah, I
it's a
mean,
good,
I can see that. Like Bali, you're on the beach, right? You get that mentality. Bangkok, you're in the city. I mean, it's bustling, everything's moving. I think that'd be pretty motivating, actually, especially being around all those successful people, like you mentioned. I mean, it's only going to motivate, drive you to work harder, move faster, right? So,
yeah, Bali is quite the catfish of a place. It's not quite what it is on Instagram for sure. So
no?
it's like just I don't know. I hated it there. It's like super like it's cool because like my buddy Jackson Pios like owns a gym and like we can hang out with like a couple people, but like there's shitty Wi-Fi. You can't really walk down the street. Like it's so busy with bikes. There's so many like crazy drunk Russians driving around. Like it's really dirty everywhere.
Hmm.
So like it's not really like paradise, like crazy paradise, like some places, but like in the main Kangoo area, it's not
Yeah, I
super.
think a lot of those paradise, what people, I think that's kind of lost its touch, especially in the past decade. Like my sister built a few places in Bali like over a decade ago, and it's changed a lot since then.
So different
Same goes
now.
for places like Tulum in Mexico, right? Like
Yeah.
used to be fairly small, quiet place, nice, away from everything, very tropical, very cultural, lots of vibes, but now it's just kind of went downhill.
It's still cool, but like I don't think it's what a lot of people think it is. I
I
mean,
know
if
what
a
you
lot of people from Australia go there 'cause it's like apparently I don't know. I've been to Oz a couple times. I don't think it's that bad, but a lot of Oz people are like, "Oh, it's so bad, need to get out." It's kind of
mean.
like it's kind of like London. London is like super toxic place, but like everyone just wants to get out. Bali or Oz is kind of the same, but it has nice weather.
Yeah, you've kind of lived all over the world, hey? Your work's kind of taken you everywhere.
Yeah, so it's super interesting. People are like, "Oh, I hate Instagram." It's like, Instagram's literally a cheat code. It's like
Hmm.
if everything went to shit, this is what I tell myself. For anyone who's listening who is like, "Oh, I'm scared of posting. I don't want to post every day." If everything just goes to shit, you just delete Instagram. Like I could move back to Canada and just be a physio or a trainer at a gym or work construction. I'd probably be fine. But like we
Hmm.
live this like it's a lot
Yeah,
of
I
work,
see.
don't get me wrong, but it's like a fantasy land of like you can what job can you post on Instagram your face talking about food and working out? And then like
Mhm.
if you I don't know, if you're a coach who has one client and you get one more client, you get a 50% raise. As soon as you think about it like that, it's like, oh wow, this is like not bad.
Exactly. And yeah, I agree with that. This is coming from a guy who spent my whole life working for other people in construction, and I've only just like been doing this for full time now for a few months, and honestly, never believed it was possible. And then once I started doing it, I was like, it's kind of like I was lied to or something this whole time, or maybe I just wasn't smart enough to figure it out. But I saw a post today, and someone made a post who obviously does online work and stuff, and it was pretty simple. As my plan, like most people's plan, is to work a job 9 to 5. So at least like that's your plan B. Like at least your plan A is to do something for yourself. Your plan B can be most people's plan A, right? So, I mean, there's always that to fall back on.
I think with coaching too, like the more you work, the better it is. So like if you know nothing, you're a new coach, like everyone shits on these new coaches on Instagram. It's like you're a new coach, you don't know anything. Like my just you have 9 to 5 every day. You have no clients to just make content and learn. Like that sounds
Hmm.
pretty good. Yeah, you don't make money yet, but like you will. You just stick with it. Like I remember my first day of construction, I had to go get a sawzall, and I had no idea what a sawzall was. I was like 14, and I was doing decking. I jumped off the deck, and I like got screamed at by a bunch of Italian guys, and then brought the wrong tool and got screamed at by my boss. And it was just rainy every day, and I tried to quit every single day. Every time I'm like, "Oh yeah, this isn't like I'm so stressed." I think about that. I'm like, "Oh wow, like it could be worse."
Yeah. And you said you got 9 to 5. I mean, you got a lot more than that too. I mean, you got 5 to 10. Work like
Yeah,
17 hours a day. Really put in the work. I mean, I'm not sure if you've met him before, Christian Chapman.
yeah, he's a
I
man.
had him on the I had him on the podcast the other day, and absolute unit, absolute workhorse, and it shows, right? I mean, he's done
Why did
very
he
well
do?
for himself, very successful, but he also puts in the work. He's not living no Bali beach lifestyle.
He just works. I feel like everyone's like, "Oh, Christian Chapman just like buys these cars and these fancy clothes." I was like, "Dude, this guy works more than anyone." Like, I I'm gonna tell I probably work half as hard as him. If I worked as hard as he did, like, dude, I would do some crazy things. Like that guy's a man.
Yeah, and honestly, most I know people at his level who offset a lot of that workload, or separate themselves from the workload, or you get less attention from those people because they're so successful, right? Like, but he's not. He doesn't do all that. He's in WhatsApp, texting people 1 in the morning all the time, answering people, all his clients. He's always there for them.
That's kind of like where I was with my business of like, I guess it's not a business, it's a service. I have a service. I don't have a business. I was like, we chatted and I was like, okay, like where do I go with this? Where do I go with coaching? Do I just keep taking on more clients? Like, and the first thing he said to me was like, don't hire a team. Like he has a team, but like Tim is like also the GOAT. So, but he was like, don't hire a team. Just do your own thing. Cause like I can't, I'm in such a physio coaching niche that like a lot of, I hire a team. It's like the quality just goes down right away. Cause I'm teaching people to do physio things and coaching at the same time and bodybuilding and all these things. It's like quite a task. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm cool like this. Just gonna be me forever. Figure something out later when I get home.
Yeah, I mean, to keep the quality service across the board, like you have to have very complex systems in place to ensure that your team is delivering to your level of standards, right? I mean, it's not unachievable, I don't think, but I do
Yeah.
understand where he's coming from. I think it can be taken over by a team, but yeah, I think the systems in place need to be adequate and fully teaching, right? Which is possible nowadays with, the advent of AI and things coming out, right?
Yeah. The problem you're always solving with when you like I work at gyms where we like hired people, I train people and stuff like that. It's like you're just the only thing you're solving for is people leaving, right? It's like you have a gym in person or your online coach, you hire another coach, they have 40 clients. What happens when they leave? Because they always leave.
Mhm.
It's like that is just a headache that I don't want to deal with. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like just gonna be me forever.
Yeah, I mean, fair. If you can handle it, why not, right? So
Yeah.
I'm looking at your seminars. What is it? What do your seminars kind of entail? What do they go over? I see you got
Yeah.
one in
So
Singapore and the Netherlands coming up.
yeah, so my teaching style is very different of I've taken probably every course you could think about online. Every course you see, I'm like, okay, like let's take that. Let's see. Now it's more like I'm just curious of like how these people teach. Uh, less of like I want to learn things. Very principles based, right? So like I don't want to teach you what to do. I want to teach you how to think. So it's not like, okay, these are muscles. This is how they pull. It's like, okay, these are the principles that govern the body. These are the nutrition principles. This is how the nervous system works to get more range of motion, deal with pain. This is how injury work. This is how hypertrophy works. These are the principles. Now you can we'll work through a case study and you can now go think for yourself, right? What does every single coach do when they start? They take a billion courses and then they just emulate everything that is in the courses and they never really learn how to think. One thing I do with a lot of my clients are coaches, and I'll ask them, I'm like, okay, do you want me to just coach you as an athlete or do you want me to help you be a better coach? And if they're like, I want you to help me be a better coach, when they ask a question, I'll ask a question back to make them think. Right. So my seminars are similar there of like very interactive. I call people out, I ask some questions, I overload them with everything. And they're at the start, people are like, this was crazy overwhelming. Like, I don't really know what to do with this information. And then, like, a month later, I'll get a text of like, you changed my entire view on coaching. Like, I understand everything now instead of like seeing a post and be like, huh, like, I don't know what to think. It's like now you have the principles to make decisions. It's similar to like if I'm teaching you how to write English, right? I teach you the letters and then I teach you the phonetics and then I teach you some words and then we make sentences and then we talk. It's the same with the human body. Like these are the principles that govern your decisions. If we understand that, we can make decisions on anyone because a human body only works one way,
Mhm.
right? There's no such thing as athletic training or hypertrophy training or conditioning training. It's all like, okay, what system are we trying to make an impact on? What adaptation do we want? What stimulus leads to that adaptation? Then what exercises or prescription am I doing to make said adaptation? Right? And the physio rehab side of it is like kind of misses the boat quite a bit. Right. I'll give you the example of like eccentric training is very popular in like rehab. And if we think about like,
Mhm.
okay, what are we trying to do with eccentric training? If I'm trying to build a hamstring or in a quad after an ACL repair, it's like, okay, if we just do eccentrics, you're not going to grow any more tissue. And it's very, very, very clear with that if we look into things. And it's like, but we're prescribing Nordic hamstring curls for all these people who have ACL repairs. And it's like, it doesn't really make sense. But if we look at the principles, like, okay, if I have, this is a real thing, if I have two groups of people and one does just Nordics and one does just hamstring curl machine, the hamstring curl machine group will do better on both Nordics and hamstring curl post. The Nordic curl group will just do better on Nordic curl. They will have no change in hamstring curl strength, meaning you built zero muscle in the hamstrings. Okay, why does that happen? And then we look back at principles of like, can you grow muscle just doing eccentrics? Yes, if you're super new, if you're super injured, but long term, like, you should probably do some concentrics to have this adaptation in this tissue. So my seminars are more of like, these are the principles that govern the body. This is how you apply these principles. Now you can go and make decisions on everyone. I also don't use slides when I present at all. So like the Netherlands seminar is 2 full days, and I will just have a whiteboard and I will just talk the entire time, which I find like obviously taking exorbitant amounts of post-secondary education. I've sat in a billion classes, and like when there's 150 words on a slide, like it's very distracting. And I've kind of found my teaching of like, if I can't talk about it from my head, I don't know it enough to teach. So I don't use slides. I just use a whiteboard, and it makes for a lot better of an experience. I find like I used to teach at a college, like I can tell when it's not going well, and like having people engaged in thinking is like the way to keep them engaged for a 2 day, 2 full day seminar. It's a lot. And like overwhelming someone with information. I tell people to start. I'm like, you're gonna be extremely confused, and then everything's gonna make sense. Like I taught a course for my own course for Prescript like last year. It only ran once. And I told people like, hey, this is 10 weeks. You are gonna be extremely confused for 9 weeks. Don't freak out. And then on the last week, we're gonna tie everything together and everything's gonna make sense. And that's exactly the feedback I got. Because like we can't just learn about principles and then expect to apply them. You need to have the reps to understand.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I go about things of like this. We're going to teach you how the principles of things, and you're going to go make decisions, and you're going to be a way better coach after it, clinician, whoever.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the presentation wise whiteboards, and it keeps it more interactive, right? Because they're moving at the same pace of your brain, and as you're speaking, you're writing, drawing, whatever it had be, right? So keeps people on the same note that you're on, opposed to getting drifted off into a PDF, not paying attention to what you're saying. But I want to unpack some other things there. Like this is a common issue. I know a few people around dealing with it. I think it's a common issue for bodybuilders, common issue for myself, especially as I progress up in strength. But you mentioned eccentrics, and this is one of the things physiotherapists, recommend to me when I see them is doing eccentric work, things like this. But it's with bicep tendonitis or golfer's elbow. The things I'll just tell you kind of some of the layman things I'm finding with it is I get it primarily on my left side. I also sleep on my left side primarily. So, kind of packed in. So I've been doing a lot more mobility on that side, opening up my range of motion. It's been helping a lot. But also with my pressing movements, I noticed like I was pressing with kind of just like moving the weight, just trying to get it from point A to point B and not really holding tension in my chest muscles, which I feel like was causing a lot of like burden to the tendons in my arm. So I've stopped doing that, a lot more like concentrated contractions through the movements. And on back days, one of the things I've done is completely stop using wraps. And I found that's helped like tremendously with the tendonitis in my arms. Other than that, I've been doing some grass on when it gets bad at home, maybe a little cupping and some certain pressure points around the elbow there. But like, what are your thoughts on that? I know a lot of people deal with this. So,
Yeah. So the upper body, like elbow and shoulder, are harder than knee and hip, in my opinion, because we we don't weight bear on our hands, right? So if we think about the prerequisites of moving are, I need to move, be able to move. The body works in segments, right? So if we think about each segment, humeral segment, forearm segment, wrist segment, first CMC segment, I need to be able to move these segments independently from one another in order to, one, lengthen and contract muscles, change the orientation. That's literally what we need to have tension or hypertrophy, right? And not put excess pressures on some place. So if we think about how a joint works, we will be taught in a textbook that the knee and the elbow are hinge joints, which is a very incorrect, simplified representation of how joints work. The hinge implies a fulcrum, right? If you open a door, there's a hinge with a pin, and the door moves around the fulcrum, which suggests things touch together, which they do not, or else we would have friction, and then we would never be able to do anything. Basically, we have two bones floating in space, and we need movement in all directions of those two bones in order to move the joint independently. And what happens over time is the nervous system controls most of this, is we move in a way in which we don't have dissociation between these segments, right? You see it with pressing all the time. I press, humerus is moving, and then like it gets to a point where I can't move my humerus independent from my scap, and I start to do this. And that's just both these segments moving in one direction. And if we move both the segments in one direction, we have high pressures on one part of a joint, high pressures in a focal area. Some tissues might get unhappy, or we have certain muscles that are quote unquote concentric all the time, stuck in a certain position. We have excess pressure that pushes on our more structural-esque tissues, tendons, etc. And then we get these little niggles. So with training, things that we can do to change that, obviously, like there's the super in-depth physio part. One thing is like the distal input. So distal meaning farther away from the midline, right? Where is the pressure on your hand? Where is the pressure on your foot? We'll change pressures up the chain, which means we will get more dissociation between segments. You literally said it. I stopped using straps, and then my elbow got better, right? If I can't rotate my forearm, I can't bend my elbow. But unfortunately for gym goers, the task will always win. If you can't bend your elbow, but you do a bench press, your elbow will bend, but it won't bend in the way that we want it to bend. And then eventually we get these niggles, right? If I can't move my shoulder, the bench press will always win. The hack squat will always bend your knee because we have to find a way to do the task. And then we put pressures on certain spots and we get these niggles. So all of the rehab-y things, right? Like stretching, grafting, stuff like that. It's like we're making a change. Which tissue are we making a change with? Maybe we make a change locally, we get a little bit more, but if we don't use that range of motion, then it's kind of just going to go back to the way it is, right? It's like, oh, my back hurts, so I didn't do my mobility work. It's like, okay, well, you're doing mobility work. Why is it not sticking? So understanding that we're making coordination changes all the time. And then eventually, if we just keep using those, we never lose them. Right. So I can look at any single person and you can see once you see it, you don't unsee it of like these joints are not moving independently, but we continue to do these tasks. Thus we have higher pressures in certain places. Thus we get niggles. It seems very simple when I explain it like that, but it's simple in theory, but harder obviously in practice to make these changes. So if we understand that the elbow, we'll use the elbow as your example, it's not a hinge, so we need some rotation through the forearm in order to bend the elbow. If I can't pronate and supinate my forearm, I can't bend my elbow, which means every single bicep curl and tricep extension and press and row, the elbow's not bending in the way that makes equal enough pressures where we don't have focal pressure somewhere, which means over time something bad might happen.
Yeah.
And if the elbow if your body's like, why is this elbow bending? We don't want to bend. you're automatically going to get less motor unit recruitment because you're fighting against your own body, which means less gains. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. And I think that's like with my left arm here, it's the worst side, but like I can't roll it this way anymore. And I actually start to feel it through the wrist here. This side is easy, like I open it right through. This side is just jammed. So that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So if you can't supinate your hand, you can't extend your elbow. If you can't pronate your hand, you can't flex your elbow. It's very the elbow and the shin are the exact same, right? If I can't pronate my foot, can't bend my knee. You'll see like the usually it happens in like a runner, like the person with like the arch that's like this, right? They can't pronate their foot, they can't rotate their tibia. They can't rotate their tibia, they can't bend their knee. Like I have knee pain on this side. And then we get movement there. And then we use that movement, increase coordination, increase speed, increase forces, and then the body's like, oh, this is fine. I don't have pain anymore. So if we think about the body in segments of like you just can't move that segment
Hmm.
relative to another one. But unfortunately, tasks will always win and gravity never stops pushing down on us. Right. So we think about 24/7, 365, we are managing gravity. A lot of the people that I work with, including yourself, are bigger than a human should be. And a human should not be your size. So you have excess gravity demands 24/7, 365, meaning nervous system has to work harder so you're not a bag of bones on the floor, which means we lose access to range of motion easier if training is not continuing to keep those ranges. The training shouldn't make you stiffer, it should make you feel more loose. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of bodybuilders probably leave the gym feeling more stiff.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I gotta wait 4 days before I train this again because like I can't get in these range of motions or like I feel these niggles. It's like, okay, like something's probably not moving the best. Like if I have a car engine and I drive and there's some friction or some heat somewhere, and then I have to wait a day before I drive the car again, it's like, okay, that's probably not the best. Like
Hmm.
I want an engine that can just put on a dyno and run it for 1,000,000 kilometers and it just continues to run forever. So that's kind of what we're doing.
So in a range of motion situation where it's limited, is the move mobility and stretch work and prehab work? Is that the move or?
So I don't love stretching if we
Mm,
don't have a range of motion. Stretching can do things. It just the issue with stretching is if we don't have a range of motion, the nervous system is going to if we and when I say don't have the range of motion, like the brain thinks that we shouldn't bend these segments the way we should. So if I want to increase that, if I go into a stretch, the nervous system might fight back, right? Like if I can't do this, if I can't bring my elbow back
mhm,
because my pec is tight and my brain's like, whoa, 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 don't do this. If I just force it into there, the nervous system's going to fight back and I'm not actually going to get a range of motion change. But if I'm doing stretching and it's like light enough where I'm not past that threshold, it could make a difference. It just the margin of error is just a little bit higher, in my opinion, for like not error, like you're not going to hurt yourself doing stretching, but like it isn't going to make the change that we want. Probably not. So usually I use more like isometrics or some sort of positional work or some sort of cue that we use with like my thing usually is like I want to make your symptoms better, but I don't want you to feel like you're doing rehabby things because rehabbing things are extremely boring,
mhm. That's
right?
why they don't stick.
If I'm telling a guy that's 250 to do all this like breath work and stuff, it's like it's gonna work maybe if you do it right, but like it's boring and it's not gonna do things. But if I'm like, hey, you're gonna do this curl variation before pressing, but you're gonna put your pressure on your hand here, and it's gonna change the pressures in your elbow so you can bend your elbow. You'll be like, oh yeah, I'll do bicep curls before I do push, like 100%. So usually I go isometrics or just different exercise variation with different cues or a little bit higher reps. I think one of the things that's going to pay a lot of my bills in like a year is like everyone's moving towards low reps, which I train with low reps. I like low reps a lot. But I'm also extremely accurate when I train,
Mhm.
meaning like you kind of have to earn your low reps. So if
Yeah.
you're a low rep guy and you see it with like the quote unquote TikTok lifters, etc., like we're doing these 5 rep lateral raises, but it's like there's no dissociation between joints. Your torso is moving, gap is moving, the humerus is moving all in one, right? So it's like that's what's gonna, and a lot of people who are adopting this, obviously it's quite new-ish, are not going to get as many gains because they're not moving joint segments independently, which means we're moving load, but we're not actually moving the tissue the way we want. And then everyone's going to say, oh, it doesn't work. And it's like, no, everything kind of works, but with higher loads become the higher pressures, which means it's harder to get get that dissociation, right? Imagine like the higher the load, the less, you want the least dissociation possible, but you want enough dissociation to move into the pattern that you want. For
Hmm.
powerlifting, I want no dissociation. Like if a power lifter was crazy mobile, I'd be like, you're not probably not very strong. I want you to have enough dissociation to do the task, and that's it. So doing higher reps, obviously there's less pressures because there's less load. So we do some
Hmm.
higher rep sets first. Now we have some dissociation between the joints. If we understand muscles don't just contract linearly, right? They contract in multiple directions because we're changing fluid dynamics. As we change fluid dynamics to get a pump, we have different pressures on the joint, which means we have different ranges of motion, right? So I use all of these things to like be like, hey, do a 15 of high cable bicep curl. Is it quote unquote optimal for hypertrophy? Yeah, less so. It's unstable, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to give you range of motion. That's going to help your other exercises. And then now we can bend your elbow. And then when you do a preacher curl, your elbow actually bends properly and you get more gain. So it's like I'm playing with a lot of my programming and stuff like that. Like we play the long game of like if you can dissociate these joints, do some unstable stuff, eventually when you do stable things, it's going to be super easy.
Hmm.
Time kind of at a time and a place. So I usually use less boring things, right? Is stretching fun? Probably not that fun, right? So usually it's like do higher reps, do certain cues, do some isometric work to change pressures in the joint without going into the range that your body's like, oh, this is funny. I don't want you to do it. And there's a higher return on investment of like, I actually get the change. And the key to that is once I get that change, I need to use it or it's not going to stick.
Hmm.
So you need to do the exact same exercises you normally do, but you just need to do them different using the new range so that you don't just, so you make a new pattern that includes that new range so that you don't ever have to do the boring stuff ever again.
Hmm.
Just the key.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I have like no activation in my left tricep. It's very hard to activate too. So that's probably the same thing, right? I just,
So when you think about activation, this is another buzzword like activation, you can't feel your tricep work.
not barely.
So feeling a muscle, when do we feel a muscle most? When it's super concentric and short. So we don't have rotation of your forearm. You can't actually extend your elbow, which means you can't get tension in the completely shortened position, which means you don't have quote unquote activation. You don't feel it. It's active, it's doing something. We just don't feel it. Right. So it's like, oh, my glutes are inactive. It's like, no. Like they're trust me, they're active or you'd fall on the ground. You wouldn't be able to
Hmm.
walk.
Yeah.
But can you feel that muscle? This is when like the principles of things is one of the things I talk about. Like when should we feel a muscle? We should feel a muscle when it's super short. We should feel a muscle when it's super lengthened because we're feeling some sort of connective tissue stretch, not as much as a shortened position. We should feel a muscle post set, right? Like you do, I don't know, set of 5 on pressing. And like you shouldn't really feel it during the set that much because the load is quite high. It's a compound exercise. But then after you're like, oh, my chest is wrecked, right? Like that's a very good indication of like, oh, something happened in the tissue I want. I think DOMS is a very good indicator, regardless of
Hmm.
like if it's an indicator of hypertrophy. It's definitely an indicator of like what happened in this. Something happened in this tissue. So if someone
Hmm.
has troubles like hip thrust, like people have trouble feeling glutes, I'll try to chase DOMs just to see what's going on. I'm like, okay, you're gonna do a triple drop set on hip thrust. Would I prescribe that for hypertrophy for a normal person? Probably not. But is it gonna create DOMs? Yes. You're
Hmm.
gonna do Bulgarians after. And then be like,
Yeah.
okay, how do you feel the next day? And if they're not wrecked in the glutes, it's like, okay, we're probably not moving the best. So I think DOMS is very slept on in terms of like
Mhm.
assessing what's going on.
So activation is a buzzword, but obviously the muscles are active. But if you're not feeling them in the shortened range, that's obviously not optimal either for hypertrophy.
Yeah, you probably just don't, you have a joint that can't go through its full range of motion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
So
Good to
usually
know.
shorten ranges is when we kind of feel it. So you're like, oh, I have lack of activation. Lengthen ranges, your task will always win. But then that's when we usually like we get quote unquote niggles of like, because the joint's bending, but it's not bending the way we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Skull crusher, overhead extension, JM press wrecked my elbows. It's like, no, your elbow just can't bend very much. Like it's not the exercise, it's you.
Got you. Yeah, absolutely. I think you might have provided me with the answers I needed. Gonna try some of those things and see if that helps. It does make a lot of sense. And I think you, I think you worded it out just perfectly there. I have one more question though. Talking about stability, do you believe like in strong bracing, like really locked in? Now, I don't really want to talk about like in a rep range of 5 to 6 per se, because honestly, I've never trained in that range myself. I know a lot of it's a new thing to do these movements are so absurd, some of them, and just like obscenely heavy. I've never done that, but regardless, like, do you think bracing like really dramatically, or do you think the body should rock with it in some movements, if you know what I mean?
So for bracing, we are choosing to not move a segment while we move another segment.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't have movement in a segment, we will move through an adjacent segment, right? If I don't have movement through my hips, I'll move through my spine. If I don't have movement through my knee, I'll move through my hips, right? Especially if we're doing a lot of machine work, we shouldn't really need to brace that much, right? Like you're on a hack squat, you're on a leg press, you're in a giant chair, you're doing a quad extension or a hamstring curl, you're in a giant chair. Why would we have so much external stability? I shouldn't need as much quote unquote internal stability to do this exercise. So, like on a hack squat and a leg press, I breathe in on the way down. Holding your breath will limit your ranges of motion. There's a time to use a respiratory brace, last reps of a set, heavy barbell work, etc. But I want to use my muscles to quote unquote brace, and your muscles are very smart. They adapt to the task. So if you're finding you're someone who needs to like brace on every rep to get movement through where you want it to, you probably just don't have movement in that joint. So someone somewhere else is moving.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So like I usually
Absolutely.
say, like your body will figure it out. I don't really want you to think about a conscious brace unless it's like a very heavy compound exercise. Maybe we brace,
Mm-hmm.
but your body will kind of figure it out if we can move in the right, if we have the access to ranges of motion, right? Like hack squat, it's like, oh, I lost my brace. It's like, you probably shouldn't need a brace on the first rep. Like, how many reps do you do? Right? Like I could probably have a conversation with you on the first 5 reps of a set. And then like, okay, it's getting hard. Now I need to think a little bit more. Now, last couple of reps, maybe I like do a conscious brace, but like I'm definitely not using air to do that. So I think a brace, understanding if we don't have range of motion in one joint, we will move through the next joint because the task will always win. Right? Someone has a massive anterior pelvic tilt. We don't have internal rotation through the hip. We need the acetabulum to face in a certain direction to stand, or we will fall. If I can't move the hip to face the femur downwards, I have to move the spine to face the acetabulum downwards. Acetabulum is hip joint for anyone who isn't adept to anatomy knowledge,
No one knows what that
or
is.
else I will fall. So an anterior tilt bad? No, it's a strategy that you use because we can't move through one joint, so we'll move through another. Is it ideal for, is that strategy ideal for lifting with certain muscle groups? Probably not. But is it a bad thing? Probably not. It's a strategy that you use to manage gravity and do tasks. So as soon as we understand that, it's like if we have to brace hard on every exercise, we're fighting against what the body wants to do. So why does the body not want to do that? We probably don't have access to moving these segments independently while we do these exercises.
Mhm.
Especially like on something like a bicep curl. It's like, what do you need to do you need a brace on a preacher curl? You're on a bench and like you're moving your elbow joint. How much load can you possibly be using relative to your 250-pound body weight?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, bracing is not
I
a
think
uh,
there
usually
needs to
bracing
be
flat is a thing that I
fluidity in movement, or no?
define fluidity in movement.
Just like a cable pull down would be a good example. Like a straight bar cable pull down, right? A lot of people just, like really brace forward, really lock in, like not allow their head to move at all, like really bracing hard, just like locked in. Like I think you should be able to, like, even if you're pulling the stack, you should be able to move that with control. You should be able to pick it up. You should be able to look around. You should be able to drop that weight back. You shouldn't be like so locked in, so tense, all through your upper back, all through your neck. Like, I believe there should be some fluidity in the motion that you can control the weight. Like, I understand bracing to move a big load here, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I think, like, we need to move as long as we're moving through the joint segment that we want, right? If I'm doing a pull down, I want to move through my humerus and scap, ideally, probably not through my spine. You see it in, like, a cable pullover quite a bit of, like, the torso angle will be, like, 45, and then we'll come up, and then we'll go down, and then we'll come up. It's like, okay, I'm moving a lot through a joint segment that's not working in this exercise. Is this getting what I want? It's probably warming up my shoulder pretty good, but, like,
Mhm.
um, yeah. And then the opposite side of that is, like, being too, I guess, rigid or, like, just moving through the joint segment, not counting for any quote unquote fluidity, if we want to use that word, right? Like being so locked in that I only move that joint segment that it actually limits load eventually,
Mhm.
right? Like, should the last couple reps of a set be the tiny bit greasy? Probably, because you probably aren't going to failure if we're just really, really dialed in only moving through some joint segments. So
Mhm.
you do need that quote unquote fluidity, yes, but to an extent where it's like a bell, everything's a bell curve, where if
Mhm.
we're too moving around, we're not moving through the joint segments that have the muscles that I want to train, right? Like if you look at a Mike Isertel chest supported row, it's like I want to move through my back muscles, but I'm moving through my spine quite a bit.
Mhm.
And then we look at the development and it's like, is it there relative to what it should be? Are the loads relative to what they should be? Probably not. It's like, okay, maybe we do something different.
Mhm.
Physique, you show me a physique with a missing muscle group, I'll show you exactly how they train or exactly the range of motion they're missing. Which is, I had this conversation the other day of like, the only thing that makes a difference in physiques is execution. Everyone pretty much understands volume and intensity. Everyone pretty much understands nutrition. Drugs are pretty much global. The only thing that makes a difference is execution. Everyone pretty much understands effort. Like everyone can try hard, but it's like if you're not accurate, like you're not putting tension across the tissues that you want. It's very, very
Mhm.
straight. This is what I think one of the reasons like my service is valuable. Of like FBB Pro has no chest, has shoulder pain. I'm like, okay, you're taking all the boxes. The only one is execution. We clean up execution, it gets better in 12 seconds. Now chest starts to grow.
Absolutely. I think I agree. Having a good, I don't want to, practitioner like yourself, therapist who, has that knowledge, I think that's probably one of the golden tools in the tool chest. I think it can really excel at physique, like you said.
To a practitioner who actually lifts weights is the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen hundreds of different practitioners around the Lower Mainland. I've had lots of issues with my hips and whatnot, so I've kind of seen a lot of different modalities. And yeah, I like the way you explain things and break things down. I mean, most of the time when you go to a physio clinic, I've been to dozens, seen dozens of therapists. You hear pretty much across the board the same things, right? So It's kind of like beating a dead horse. You
I mean,
just you go and hear the same shit. You don't really get anywhere. It's this constant battle. Yeah, do these stretches before or do these activation work or whatever before. And like you said, most of the time it's boring, it doesn't stick. So person does it for a week, sees some benefits, again, goes back, and then in a month or two, just right back to where we started, right? So
yeah, in the physio's defense, it's kind of not their fault. So like most physios, say like you're from the lower mainland, you go to UBC physio, you think you're the cream of the crop of physios. You go through high school and then you probably go to UBC for your undergrad and then you go to UBC physio and you've never had a chance to do anything. And you either take a student loan or like mommy and daddy pay for it and you've never had experience questioning anything ever in your life. And they teach you quite the flow chart of physio, not quite like
mhm,
a way to think with like these different principles. Obviously, some of the principles that I use is like everything that's taught in school has to be very concrete in research. But the problem with research is like it's controlled, and we life is not controlled,
mm,
right? So I'm less quote unquote research based and more like would say evidence based. Evidence is different than research in my opinion. Evidence is like would it hold up in a courtroom? Like you give me a study and where you're on the block, like I could tear it apart. But like you give me evidence of like this guy's arm is big, what he did made his arm big. And I'd be like, well, the evidence doesn't lie. This guy's arm is big, right? So physio is kind of we just get taught a flow chart, and if you don't have the time and the reps to be like, oh, like maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe there's a faster way to get someone results than just stretching because
mhm,
everything works eventually, but you need to understand that eventually the only way to get more valuable in this, especially as a practitioner, it's a terrible business model, is get results faster. Like there's a reason I don't talk about pain online anymore because I was the pain guy at the start, and I had 20 clients in the first week, and then 13 or 14 of those clients after a month or two left, and they said
didn't come back.
I'm going back to my real coach because I don't have any pain anymore. And I was like, oh, guess I did my job, but like I want to just be an assembly line of things all the time, or like should I have a service that kind of has some sort of consistent income? And that's when I switched my message to like physio is just the roadblock to the fun stuff. Like I want to get someone strong and jacked and looking good and running a marathon and doing all those things. Like physio is just a roadblock in the way. And like if it's a nervous system thing, sometimes it like gets better in 2 seconds. It's like,
Mhm,
hey, press like this, not like this. And you're like, oh, I feel better. I'm like, cool, just press like that for the rest of your life. You don't need any more physio. Sometimes it's literally that simple. But we are taught in physio school to diagnose, and the problem with diagnosis is sometimes the symptoms are not caused by a actual structural diagnosis. Most of the time, they're not. Right. So, like, someone comes with knee pain, be like, oh, what do you think it is? I don't know. It's knee pain. And knee doesn't move very well. Like, do I think the structure is wrong? Probably not. And if the structure is injured, obviously, like, if there's signs that structure is damaged, you do tests and we need to be more careful. But like, if there's no signs that the structure is damaged, or like, oh, I was lifing and then like my knee started to hurt. It's like, okay, like, do you have a structural damage? Probably not. So you don't need a structural intervention. You need just some sort of nervous system movement intervention, and then things can sometimes get better very, very fast. So in physio school, we're taught a flow chart, and if you don't have enough time to realize the flow chart kind of works, but it just works a lot slower, then you just end up being the physios that you described or practitioners that you described that I spent my whole life in school and now I'm just working. Why would I ever question anything? Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on post-secondary education. Why would I ever do something that is different than that? So yeah, it's not their
makes sense. I have one more question I want to pick your brain on. You talk a lot about like energy and individual, like personal, each person. And I see this guy on Instagram. I'm trying to remember his name. He's like maybe like a physical therapist of some sort. He's very popular, but you probably know it. He'll do like tongue pulls. Have you
yeah.
ever seen that? He's like super popular and he'll be doing like But I seen him do one on a like a lady. She had like hip pain. She couldn't move her leg or whatever. Then he did some like I don't even know what he did. He like rubbed her back or something. Told her, whispered in her ear, like pushed on her hip a little bit in this way, and then she's like healed instantly. Or these people will do like these tongue pulls, and he says that they'll pull their tongue with, and this is like relieves all the tension through the whole body. And it's like I don't know if it's like wooey stuff or, but you kind of mentioned like the nervous system and like do those things are those things maybe things we don't know about yet? Maybe some people believe in them, they actually work. Maybe some people don't. What's your side on that?
Yeah. So basically, everything we do in life is modulating the nervous system in some way, right? So when we look at any intervention, we have input, we have interpretation or modulation of like what the brain thinks is going on, and then we have an output. So if I use a foam roller, I have receptors in my skin and my muscle that sense touch and pressure. That sends a signal to my brain. My cerebellum and my brain talk, and they're like, okay, what's going on here? And then the output might be decreased muscle tone in an area. Right. So that's how I think about every single thing of like we have an input, we have an interpretation, we have an output. Right. We have a light shining on my face. My eyes take in the light. It tells my brain it's daytime. Now things are different. Right. So with these interventions that are unconventional, um, we might have a mechanism there for some things. I can't speak on like all of the. I definitely can't really speak on the tongue thing as much
Mm,
because my thing is like, is it going to make a short term change, or do we have to do something to make a long term change? Like chiropractic adjustment, I think it's very good. You have an input, it makes an immediate change. But where it falls short is like, okay, how long is this change going to last? What do we need to do that I never need to see this person again? Right. And the short term interventions are very, very good. A lot of people shit on manual therapy and like stuff like that. It's very good. It makes a very fast change.
mhm,
And we need to do something different. Like we didn't get this way for no reason. The body doesn't really work. If the body worked that quickly for like an immediate change, we would not be humans so we would not be humans that run the earth. Or the species would not have survived because the adaptations, like the body is so malleable, right? It's not like you're fixing a car. It's like, oh, I have a hole in my intake. Okay, fixed pipe.
mhm,
Okay, pipe fixed, car fixed. It's like the human body doesn't really work like that. Like there's input 24/7, 365 from all of we are sensory humans, mostly visual. Then we have interpretation of these things. How is your past experience with this? What do you believe in the intervention? What do you feel, et cetera, et cetera? And then we have an output of like whatever, maybe symptoms or decreased muscle tone, increased heart rate, et cetera. So if I was like, obviously, like if I was to tell you to do something, you'd probably be like, okay, like I'll try. Right. Like we have enough trust. I have a piece of paper. You've seen me on Instagram. I work with these people. Like you'd be, if I was like, hey man, I'm going to pull on your tongue and your elbow's going to get better. Right. Like, am I changing the input of pulling on the tongue? No. Am I changing the interpretation of the input? Yes. And this is a lot of time, like education is very important when we're dealing with like pain or symptoms of stuff. I was like, if stuff makes sense, it'll probably work better. But, or if you believe in something, it'll work better. So I think that's part of it of like, can I pinpoint a specific mechanism for a lot of these things? Maybe yes. There's always stuff mechanism, but is that going to make a long-term change? No. Does it heal someone in 1 minute? Probably not. Like, I'll
yeah,
give you an example. My dad has had like very bad like foot problems and shoulder problems and stuff like that. Obviously doesn't listen to me. And then my mom texts me and she's like, oh, like dad's feeling a little bit better. He's going to this crystal healer. And I was like, this crystal healer, you say? I was like, please send me something on this. And like, obviously, like there's no science to back up these things, like these crystals and energy and stuff. Why would healthcare not be using these things?
mhm,
Right? Like, so I'm like, but he's feeling better. I'm like, who am I to argue? So I think this is like the big thing that we need to understand is like, if something makes someone feel better, like just let them do it. It's fine. It's fine. Right. And everyone's looking for the quick fix. Right. If you came to me and you're like, hey, like this is what happened in the UK. This is why I could never work in the UK. It's like someone comes in with knee pain and I'm like, I can't be like, yo, dog, you're 60 kilos overweight and all your health markers are shit. And you walk 2,000 steps a day and your body's shutting down as a human because you literally just don't care about it. You did this to yourself. No one wants to hear that,
Mhm.
right? No one wants to point the finger at themselves. They want to hear, you know what you didn't do? Get someone to pull on your tongue. If I just do this, your symptoms will be better, right? So it's just like people they don't want to point the finger at themselves. So it's like if you come to me with knee pain, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're just too big and you just lift like shit for your whole life. That's probably not what you want to hear. It's what I tell people. Like you just are terrible at lifting. You're terrible at a bunch of these things. We just need to make them better. But people
Mhm.
don't want to point the finger at themselves. They want to just get their tongue pulled and make their symptoms better. Get some crystals
Yeah,
rubbed on there.
I think there is just maybe a side of like a subconscious block, maybe to some pain not going away, or like.
With that too, of like once we have symptoms, things are modulated. So like I have a couple clients who are listening, they know who they are. I tell them like stop thinking, just lift. Like they're coaches who like want to get every movement perfect and like had a little back pain in the past. And I'm like, just stop thinking about it. Like, it's gonna be okay. The body will figure it out. Like just lift. Right. But like because they've had symptoms, their input and their interpretation of these lifts and stuff are changed. And they just think and think and think and think and think. And it's like that's gonna make things worse. So it's
Mhm.
like I can go play volleyball and my shoulder's fine. But like then when I press it hurts.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe pressing more load, but like you it's a lot more force and crazy range of motion when you play volleyball. Like, why does it not
Mhm.
hurt then? Because you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I think there is that belief pattern, and I think there's a subconscious block in a lot of people's minds that they identify as broken, they identify as that pain. I mean, I've been there. I've had some crippling hip issues, and it's funny, I'll stop thinking about it for a couple of days and I'm like, what even happened? I'm all of a sudden better. I stopped getting into pigeon poses. I stopped sitting on my glute, rolling it out. I just stopped thinking about it for 24 hours. I just completely forgot. I didn't even make a subconscious decision to, or a conscious decision to be like, hey, I'm not going to think about this for the day. I just subconsciously forgot about it. And all of a sudden, in 24, 48 hours, it's completely gone because I stopped focusing on it. I stopped identifying with it and stopped making it my reality. That's probably happening with these, practitioners on Instagram or whatever they are, these healing therapists, is they do create the belief in these people. They create like a very emotional environment and whatnot. And then they do remove that like the subconscious like block of the pain not going away. And they also tell them like, look, hey, look, it's gone, and yeah, it's gone now because like you just took the second to believe it, right? And I think that goes to for I was in a class with a guy in the UK who does breath work, and he teaches at like a very scientific level. And he teaches most people can't handle breath work because they don't know how to manage oxygen to begin with. And a lot of these crazy feelings that happen is because their body's going into a panic state or a state of fight or flight, right? And anxiety's cranked through the roof, cortisol gets cranked through the roof, all these endorphins get cranked because their body doesn't actually know how to handle the situation of managing oxygen correctly, right? So they're kind of forcing people into these emotional states, but you're forcing your body into this state that it doesn't even want to be in, right? So I just thought of that too with the breathwork thing, but I think
Yeah.
it's a big belief pattern, right? If you associate as broken, it's going to be very hard to heal.
Yeah. It's hard when like we're programmed to want to know answers. of like, why is this happening? And like, no one wants to hear the answer of like, every second you've spent on the earth, your body manages gravity in a certain way, or you do these patterns, or you do this, and then it led to this. So like, all your 35 years on the earth, yeah, that's what did this. And also like this, everything is like very structural. We still look at the body very structural. So it's like, oh, structure bad, pain, structure is broken. It's like, no, no, no. Like, that's not really how these things work. So I'm not saying we can't have broken structure, but even if we have broken structure, we don't know if the structure is causing the pain. Like, go get an MRI. I bet you don't, you have a disc that's bulged out. Do you have symptoms? No.
Guaranteed I do, and I don't. Yeah.
So it's like, we don't, just because structure is messed up, we can't assume that the structure is causing the symptoms. Because if we did, then everyone would need a structural intervention all the time. There would be no use for physios or anything because everyone would just get surgery.
Mhm. Yeah, I've had that many times going to the physio, just so worried. Is my back just completely busted?
Yeah,
They
I
do
think
some
like
tests. No, you should be good.
humans are quite resilient. Like we live an easy life now, but like when we had to like hunt a lion and walk for 3 days, like it's I think we'll survive like sitting at a desk on a computer. Like
Mhm.
the body's pretty resilient. So
Yeah, and I think I forgot to mention something there. Like the association with being broken is one thing, but like you said, if you come in and you're like exorbitantly overweight and you've been living like this forever and you don't do any steps and you have knee pain, well, that's probably the culprit of the knee pain. So get in shape, get active, and and change that mentality too. Like it is a belief in your head that you can be a new person. You're not necessarily overweight Steve or whatever, right? Like you can be healthy Steve. Like this is not unachievable. It's just a matter of making that decision, making that change in your mindset, right?
yeah, like there's very few things besides maybe fat gain, 'cause you gain more cells that are not like irreversible, right? Like you bad cardiovascular endurance, you can make it better. You have no muscle, you can get more muscle, right? Like there's a lot, the body is so malleable that like there's a lot of, you can always make a change, right? Some things stick around, like I don't know, you have loose skin or something like this, but like other than that, like most things can be changed.
Absolutely. My cats are having a war here. I don't know what's going on. Is it raining there? It sounds like
No, is it just my sound?
maybe you got a little fuzz. I was gonna
It's
I was gonna ask you earlier, but
perfectly silent. If it
it's all
rains, it usually like rains like crazy.
yeah, that's what I was wondering because I heard kind of like a static, so I was like wondering if it was a big rainstorm that day or
I'm
something.
too lazy to hook up my mic, so I just assume my laptop mic's pretty good. So usually I use it for
Oh,
podcasts.
good, man. I've done this with people on their iPhone. We got good producers in the back end here at within the rep, so we get it locked down.
There we go. Love it.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your morning to come on here today. So, if the people want to attend one of your seminars, find you on socials, where can they find you?
Yeah. So Coach Baxter on Instagram. Pretty much do everything through Instagram. Don't even have a website. If you have any questions, DM me. If you're in Europe, Netherlands seminar. If you're in Asia, only a month away, Singapore seminar, the end of the month, and March 14th is Netherlands, and then I'll be back in Canada the end of the year. Might be doing something in Toronto, so Canadian people around like May time. So just look out for that. But other than that, if you need me, I'll be on the Instagram.
You have to set something up at the Realm. That'd be a good spot. I was gonna say Vancouver, but no, that's not good. Let's get everybody out to the Realm. That's probably a good spot.
Yeah, just like setting these things up is a massive headache. So like I would do more of these things, but it's like it's a lot, especially like doing the overseas ones and
It's
getting
a
people
lot
to
of work.
show up is like also a lot of work.
Hmm. Yeah. So his Singapore is February 28th on a Saturday, and the second seminar is in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, March
Yeah,
14th and 15th.
that's actually the second one. So we have one first weekend is sold out, and then we have a second weekend. So that'll be less busy, I think. So get involved
Amazing.
if you're in Europe. I'm not doing another Europe one. Everyone asks me, but I have a lot of people like. I thought about doing like a UK one as well, but then I looked at the list and I have like 7 or 8 UK people flying, and I'm like, if they buy a ticket for a Netherlands one and then I announce one in the UK after, like they probably won't be very happy. So I'm like, I'll just do Netherlands and not like it would
Yeah.
have to announce them all at one time, which I didn't do. So
Yeah. Well, fair enough. It's hard managing all this stuff, especially big. I can't imagine doing big seminars like that. So
yeah, hopefully they'll go well. It's good because like I just need a whiteboard and I don't need all this like other stuff. I'm like, you can get some chairs, so you can sit on the equipment. Like I have an open gym, we do practical stuff. It's like it's super fun. That's why I haven't done like an online course or whatever thing yet. I
mhm.
just find it like in person is just so much better. And like money wise, I could probably better to do online because I don't have to leave my house and like there's no expenses and anything. But like it's just so boring relative to in person.
Well, if you start an online one, then your in person one turns into a premier service, right?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I'll figure it out. It's on the list of things to do. I have like people ask me every single week, like, when are you doing online mentorship? I was like, I don't want to.
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
If the people are asking, man, give them what they want. Give the people what they want. Yeah, Coach Baxter on Instagram. Appreciate having you out and
Pleasure.
appreciate you coming through.
Chat soon.